We are back and ready to continue our day of Grandmasters with match number 4. I am Raven, and joining me is Sottle for the rest of the day and for the start of the day as well, but just in case you were tuning in here all the time. We have got our next match coming up now, and it's going to be a good one because I feel like we haven't seen BoarControl play for quite a while. I don't know why, because we have, but it just feels like it.
I mean, no, that's fair. He's been a little bit absent. I believe we haven't caught up with him for quite some time. But of course, a player who we are both a big fan of, a player who I know has a lot of fans around the world due to his very successful streaming career now as well. So good to see him back in action in competitive play, and also good to see him, at least I guess if you're a BoarControl fan, being allowed to play Warrior in this series, Raven.
Have the Frenchmen gone insane, Sottle, is my question. First, Zim did it at the start of the day, and now Swidz is following suit here. And again, does not impress me so far. We'll see if it pays off. It's going to leave BoarControl with that Warrior up, as you mentioned, Highlander, Mage, and of course, Tempo, Demon Hunter, where Swidz is going to have a Warlock, Demon Hunter, and Mage open as well. And I think, again, that is a combo we've not really seen that often here over in Grandmasters in Europe, at least, to go for Warlock Mage. It doesn't feel like it's something we've seen.
Yeah, and unlike his compatriot Zim, Swidz is still flying the flag as a proud Frenchman, which means bringing Zoo Warlock to Grandmasters. Swidz is very much on the hype train, but you can totally understand why this split has happened. They've been bringing pretty similar strategies up until this point. Swidz has been doing great, so why change a winning formula up until this point, whereas Zim has been struggling. So he is the one that is diverting to something a bit different. But I think there's a lot of threads running through this matchup, not in the least, Raven. BoarControl's somewhat storied history up to this point with French players, both in competition and on his stream.
Yeah, he does seem to... I don't think it's like a serious issue in any way, but does seem to enjoy winding the French players up. And they enjoy the fact that he does, so they wind him up back. It is becoming quite a fun thing to not only keep hold of, again, even whether it's on BoarControl's stream, through Twitter, or just on camera, as we've seen it throughout Grandmasters so far. But also as well, for me, BoarControl is currently sitting at the top of Division A with his 2-0 victory score so far. And if he takes a win here, 3-0, is looking pretty good. And as we've seen in other regions, or at least Asia Pacific so far, with Glory at 4-0, at that point, you're almost untouchable, right? I think you've almost guaranteed a lock-in spot for playoffs, if that's the point in Division A. So looking pretty good for BoarControl if he could take this. He's going to have to take down Swidz first, and it's going to be a Mage Mirror, a Sottle special, as it's known.
Indeed. And this success for Boar has come largely at the expense of French players up until this point. He has a 3-0 record overall in Grandmasters against Felkane. He has a 2-0 record against Zim. But he is yet to beat Swidz. Swidz is his French demon up until this point. He is 0-2 against Swidz so far. Just to round out the statistics as well and cover the other French player, Boar is 0-0 against Gallon in Grandmasters. just make that one clear.
For a split second, I wondered where you were going with that, and then I got it pretty quick. Let's go into the opening hands, which aren't looking too great for BoarControl, but Mana Saber solves a lot of problems in the Mage deck, so maybe that is just enough to get this hand together for BoarControl. Meanwhile, Swidz has some card draw, has a chunk of secrets now, but then nothing else either in this mid-game, so a little bit strange for both players, but now with Observer and a Mana Saber and some options post Mana Saber, it's looking a lot smoother.
Okay, very interesting. Boar is pen and paper tracking. It seemed very clearly just to take time out of his turn there, just to note down what happened on his opponent's turn and make any notes that he needed. He might just be doing that for hand reading purposes. Some players don't generally like the busy overlay that Deck Tracker will cause, that will help you out with sort of which generated cards are in hand or whatever. But again, that is the point. Deck Tracker is legal in this tournament. So there is, arguably no real reason to be making notes on pen and paper when you have a tool that will do that for you. But that seemed to be quite clearly what Boar was doing that.
Also, there are some weird limitations, right? Because a lot of the time, as far as at least I'm aware, the Deck Tracker says it's a generated card, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas BoarControl might be more bothered about the specifics of, say, the generation or the card draw or something like that, right? So
it's exactly a 0 mana secret that his opponent has in his hands.
Exactly, as opposed to because trust me, in this matchup there can be a lot of weird cards in your opponent's hand. So I think that is a completely valid, especially against Mage.
Yep, great point.
Meanwhile, though, BoarControl is very swiftly becoming the aggressor here. This Observer, yes, not using its Battle Cry to its greatest effect I've ever seen, but still, it's a 4/5. It's pretty solid. And now BoarControl has the choice to attack in with this Mana Saber, but honestly, it does not really create much of an opening for him to do so. He could hold off and actually just trying to go into a quicker Seaman.
You could try really, really hard to convince Zephyrus to give you Wind Fury here, but it definitely wouldn't.
It's kind of awkward that it's barrier, or that the secret's proccable, because he could attack into Zephyrus into the 4/4 that deals with the secret.
Yeah, I'd agree with your assessment. Doesn't really feel like exposing your Mana Saber here does a great deal for you, unless there is some kind of Zephyrus play that I'm missing.
Would there ever be just like not 4 mana? Is it like just an aggressive option? You could just try and just kill him? I don't know. I'm just trying to think if there's any way worthwhile, because you've seen Swidz done nothing, and BoarControl does have a lot of power on board right now.
He does. His opponent is unfortunately at 37 right now, as we can see with the Ice Barrier costing 0 in hand.
Even more so, because there's an Ice Barrier equipped as well, right? Isn't the secret he's got live an Ice Barrier too?
Yeah. There goes the Flame Ward. I guess we actually haven't covered yet that this is not a straight-up Highlander Mage mirror between the two players. Swidz is in fact playing what I think was named in our deck tracking software was named Uh-Oh Mage and has been displayed on screen as such, probably in an attempt to stop me from calling it Scam Mage, which is definitely not going to work because that's what it is. But that's basically 2 copies of all the cards that create stupid power spikes with Dragoncaster. You're playing 2 Dragoncasters, you're playing 2 of most of the big payoff spells, including Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron, and generally you're just giving up your Highlander options to be able to do that kind of stuff more consistently.
Yeah, and this is what we've seen from Swidz earlier in the week with this deck, is that it basically didn't get the Dragoncaster ability off on curve, and the deck did look significantly weaker after the fact, right? Because then it does look just like a Highlander deck that doesn't actually have Zephyrus or Alexstrasza in it, which, or Reno as well, of course, which makes it feel a lot. Maybe, I don't think we saw it in the mirror, right? So maybe it's just a little bit better in the mirror. BoarControl going for the flare.
All minions lose stealth. Have we factored that part into the equation here? Are we happy with that?
Oh yeah, it's 3 damage.
Okay. Nothing to do with that 1 extra mana that turn anyway, but I just need to be aware that you are, of course, giving up your Mana Saber, or at least exposing your Mana Saber to removal by doing it this way. But again, Swidz's deck doesn't really play the removal options that you'd be scared of here, right? Like, obviously this board's slightly too big, but there's no fear of Reno Relicologist coming down. There's no fear of rolling Fireball, because those just aren't cards that Swidz is playing.
Note as well, small extra is if Board decided to do anything a little bit different with ordering, like he really had to make sure that there was the 2 mana specifically, because it would not offer him flare if there was anything but 2 mana.
Right.
Problem is, yes, Swidz can Blizzard, but as you mentioned, he can clear much of the board away, and then is he committed to the Blizzard? Is one of the benefits
here? Frost Nova instead, with 2 Blizzards in hand, effectively just spending way less mana this turn on cards. A little confused by that, I'm going to confess.
You got to ping, which now sets up double Blizzard a little bit easier, with Blizzard this turn, and then Blizzard ping the next turn. But yeah, I'm not sure if it was worth it. I thought he was going to do something else with the mana, maybe, but there was nothing else to do because this Ice Barrier is 0. Now I really like this from BoarControl, because even if there's another freeze, there's only so much freeze, right? And I think now Swidz has to get to Reno, coin Reno. She needs 2 more turns.
Right.
Maybe it is just Blizzard, coin Reno. Depending on what state.
Yeah, and it's just interesting to me because, you know, with the extra turn needing to be bought before, you know, coin Reno can come down. Obviously, it's a lot of cards away, but, you know, if a Dragoncaster was drawn, if Power Creation was drawn, you can potentially do all of that in the same turn with Frost Nova, potentially, if you need to buy that extra turn before the Reno. Just by having that cheaper freeze option available, it just seemed more flexible to me. I get that this does, like, nice damage breakpoints with the 2 Blizzards coming down after the ping. But Frost Nova is just such a more flexible card.
Hey, though, BoarControl does have some tough moments here. He can't just go all out. If he keeps getting frozen on board, then he's not going to have any space to play anything, and then his turns are very, very limited. And he is representing a ton of damage after the freeze is worn off. So maybe he takes his turn to just Arcane Select and maybe drop the Astromancer Solari. Oh, or not. Or just get him. Commander to their face.
There is that Dragoncaster.
Doesn't feel that great though, does it?
It doesn't. It could still be the payoff spell next turn, potentially, although next turn is the coin Reno turn anyway.
Now is BoarControl on the 11 ping plan.
The 11 ping plan. Gonna say no. Gonna go out on a limb here.
I wonder.
Really awkward turn. It's a shame for BoarControl he doesn't have this Malagos active. It's a great minion to just throw away, isn't it? Because you're normally not too bothered about the 2/8 side of the minion. You really are just after that battle cry and the powerful spell.
Sure.
It's a good filler turn sometimes if everything's a bit quiet.
I wonder. Time runs out on me.
You sure he's not on the 11 ping plan?
Even if he was, he's not going to be soon.
Yeah, just transfer him over to the 15 ping plan. Oh, so it isn't going for the Reno here, by the looks of things.
Right.
What does he want? Another Nova? But why?
You're in my hands now.
Okay.
You've got your work cut out for you here, Sol. Analyze this, because I'm just confused.
Well, he has Ray of Frost for the Tiamat, right? Which is the scariest thing that's in play right now, regardless of what he picks here.
Fine.
Deep Freeze will always freeze an enemy. Can be face, though, which would be a big problem. Just forget about it. Yeah, I mean, why do I bother, honestly? Just watch the pretty colors. That's why this deck exists, right?
BoarControl's response was basically the same.
Swidz, the classic Swidz round of applause. Yeah, he deserves it after that one.
He's not even applauding himself, he's just applauding the Tortolan. A good job.
Yeah.
Honestly, for that play, remove the outcome, but that felt so risky versus just gaining 5 armor and getting rid of all these.
It did. I mean, so I'll finish the point. He is at 18 right now, right? Because this is an ice barrier in play. Boar is also giving it credit for being a Flame Ward, as he showed last turn. I think that's what that no attack was about, because if he attacks and it's Flame Ward, then his Siamat is a 6-1 at the end of the turn, a frozen 6-1 that wasn't attacking, which means Swidz can just ping. Whereas if he doesn't attack into the Flame Ward, he gets to attack with the Siamat in the same turn, and Swidz still has to deal with the board. So, from Swidz's perspective, Boar is giving it credit for being a Flame Ward, but it is actually an Ice Barrier. So even if he can just lock down the Siamat that turn, which is the worst case scenario, 0 defense off of his Tortollan Pilgrim plus a Frost Nova, he's saying, well, it just doesn't really matter that much because I can tank the rest of the damage in the absolute worst case scenario.
I actually wondered right here if this was a Reno turn for Bork. Because although he loses a ton of pressure, he effectively removes, 12 healing?
Right.
From Swidz, which is so huge that for me it was leaning towards just being worth it. Instead, he's going to freeze these cards out for a turn and ping. But I'm not sure what that freeze ping is leaning towards. Is it this Malygos into something, even though he doesn't have a dragon yet?
Seems that way, yeah. He's getting increasingly likely to draw a dragon, having not seen them yet up until this point. He still has Kalikos, Alexstrasza still remaining in his deck, Twilight Drake as well.
I think it's even more likely now with this development on board from Swidz that we are going to see a Reno from BoarControl, though.
Mm-hmm. Definitely starting to look that way. This is going to be a very sad Wind Fury Siamat that's just been sat there for multiple turns, just wanting to get down on the face. There is that Alex draw now.
It's a little bit scary to Reno and know Swidz has some level of refill. But there are still a lot of cards that Swidz doesn't have. He isn't running a Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, so there isn't that. It's just going to dump down a ton of massive dragons. Kalikos isn't a threat in terms of an actual powerful minion on board to deal damage. I think he just has to Reno here. Is he really thinking about, like, kill off his own Argent?
I wonder.
No. If he could kill them off, play the Malygos and get like Fireball, and he can go for the ping plan. But then Swidz would, we can see with just Alexstrasza.
Yeah.
Time runs out on me. What to do?
Watch close.
I like this. I think everything else is a little bit too desperate.
Yeah, I agree too. I was sort of trying to work out where the Boar might feel if he can get back on board and win that way, just dominate, because he does, of course, have Dragon Queen, Alexstrasza, and options like that to build more consistent boards and just win through attrition.
He still has Zephyrus, right?
No, he Zephyrus for the flare earlier on.
Oh, of course, yes, you're right.
Swidz just trying to work out if he's safe here, and I think he is, right? Outside of more weird charge minions coming off like a randomly generated Power of Creation #2 from Kalikos, or Kalikos into Pyroblast, or that's about it, right? Like, he's not dying to Malygos Fireball because they can't fit the ping in alongside it.
Fine.
So I don't think he needs to heal here.
There's no ping to fit in, is there?
Oh yeah, it's very true, yeah.
Oh, I love it. Good Gyrocopter. Wind Fury's huge.
If I could just
Good
cast
Breath of
that.
the Infinite. And then Rolling Fireball on the right to clear it all up. Or, sorry, to clear up the Gyro.
Is he resigned to leaving this Kalikos up, though? I guess he has to be.
I could just cast that.
So strange, isn't it? For BoarControl, who felt ahead for so much of the game, is just in such a strange spot that looks even stranger by the fact that there's just Swidz is on 9 health and BoarControl's on 34.
Yeah.
It's so strange, right? It just doesn't look correct, but I'd argue that Swidz is in actually a pretty good spot this game.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with you. Swidz might even have the license to just potentially go aggressive here if he really wants to.
He picked the frostbolt, that's all I want to know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Get him, bees. BoarControl has to switch to just a longer game plan right now. I think the time of him going aggressive, trying to end the game, is long gone. Now he has to work out how to fend off this attack of Swidz.
Yeah, Gyrocopter's pretty clutch there, being able to get the full clear by rationing out. Yep, the trade's exactly like that, 1 into each.
Swidz has a quite clear on his own, but the Dragon's not looking too bad though. Can kill off this Dragon Caster and deal half the damage to the Twilight Drake. It's quite slow. He could follow it with Frostbolt on the Twilight Drake potentially, but that's a lot of resources in with the Twin Tyrant.
It is,
I
yeah.
prefer the Deep Freeze.
Right. I think when you get into the world of just how powerful mage late game cards are in this matchup, spending 8 on a Twin Tyrant is fairly unappealing. Okay. Seems good.
And here's one of the differences now for BoarControl. He is running Highlander Mage, so Alexstrasza is an option. Swidz, it is not.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but he does still have his Malygos active, which means he can try and get a spell
If
to
I
pull him
could
out here.
just
But
cast
might
that.
even just be the Alexstrasza play, honestly.
Yep. I think so. Ooh, those are not good. Argument as to whether the battle cry is just actively bad for BoarControl here on the Crazed Netherwing, whether he should just hold on to it until he can play his other dragons, but that's so much commitment. Yeah,
He can kill one elemental, but make the other 2 minions lower health.
Yeah.
Netherwing, but I think you might have to.
right. I guess arguably his 4-3 is dead to Flame Ward right now anyway.
Oh!
Sure. Yeah,
Oh!
sign me up. I take it back. That was a great outcome.
Yeah, the rebuy, perfect.
So yeah, Boar's just going to hold on to it?
Base.
Or just
Oh, the
proc
Flame Ward.
The Flame Ward?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I'm thinking more about the Ice Barrier. Yeah, you're right with Flame Ward, definitely bad.
So Boar is going to hold on to this Netherwing though until it's a somewhat better situation for him. But it does mean, because you know one of his dragons was so small in the Bronze Explorer, and the other one he's chosen not to play, he's basically representing 0 pressure this turn because there's just 2 big threats and 2 water elementals on the other side of the board. So it gives Swidz freedom to essentially do just whatever he wants this turn.
Uh-oh.
Well, you put 2 of those cards in your deck. Probably a good chance you're picking it up with the Dragon Caster in hand as well.
If he just took the time.
Uh-huh.
Ready for a show?
Oh.
Ooh. Oh, that's annoying.
Extremely.
The Dragoncaster's sacrifice was in vain.
It's like the one thing this crazy Netherwing had going for it was that it killed that water elemental. Nope,
What would
not anymore.
make us rich?
Spells remaining in Boar's deck. He has Ancient Mysteries, both of his secrets, Frost Nova, Blizzard, and still his puzzle box as well. So the Tortollan Pilgrim is still got a significant failure rate right now.
I will crush your delusion.
This plus Breath of the Infinite though, not bad.
And then Netherwing for the full clear. Yeah.
Thought I had more time.
Does instantly shuffle his Prime as well, just to make sure he's playing around any nonsense that can come from a puzzle box or any other generated polymorph transform effect. And the Amazing Reno, of course, as well. I think we saw Boar on a previous turn. We kind of breezed past it, but Boar just had floating mana and just chose not to play his Solarian Prime for that exact reason. That he just does not... Sorry, his Astromancer Solarian, just to not get it Reno'd, because he really wants that Death Rattle to go off.
Life and hope.
Now is it just again with the Alexstrasza? Yeah, it seems to make sense to me. Got some leeway. Ooh, okay.
It's a little bit better than last time, I'd say. Although he only has this Dragon Queen Alexstrasza because of last time.
What if he heals Swidz and then Alexstrasza's him just to assert dominance?
I was wondering, yeah, because you can also Alex yourself and then heal yourself, which is kind of the same thing.
Nowhere near as mentally breaking. But yes. Much the correct play, I think.
Well, I mean, is the don't overthink it play of just put Swidz to 15 and then just heal yourself not just the right way of doing it? Does that 3 health really make or break the game?
Thought I had more time.
Probably not. At least not in the world we're used to seeing of Mage Mirrors, where it's not often won by millimeters, is it? It's won by miles most of the time. It's either players normally just build up a huge board, it doesn't get answered, and then the damage gets to him. So I do think it's fine to do it this way. 20 health total for Swidz, 28 for BoarControl. BoarControl putting on the pressure with his dragon army.
Don't make me use my big magic. What would make us rich?
Just quiet, Reno. Okay, fat load of nothing so far. Sure. Yeah, we're definitely filing that one under yikes. That was a miserable puzzle box from Swidz.
Thought I had more time.
Ice Barrier, Flame Ward, and Pack Tactics are the secrets.
How light this is to just be a flame strike? Okay, maybe not now with the Reno.
That seems better, yeah.
Yeah, it does. But the overall idea of, I don't think BoarControl wants to mess about and miss out on the potential pressure of just 14 damage this turn,
yeah.
that you know is likely to hit and connect if you can clear off his taunt. I think it's very much worth the Reno. Even to the extent where I think it was actually worth the Flame Strike if he hadn't drawn Reno.
Or I guess considering whether he can go with Tortollan Pilgrim instead, he has the chance to get Blizzard, but he does still have Ancient Mysteries, Flame Ward, Frost Nova, Ice Barrier, and the Puzzle Box remaining. So yep, Reno seems wise. This attack goes first in case that Hunter secret is freezing trap. It is not.
I love what looked to be the drag of the Malagos until he saw the box drawn and was like, No Nova though, but he does have a regular Cross Nova in his hand, so he can stall this game out again for next turn. If he really wants.
He does. There's a pretty sucky options though. He definitely doesn't want the card draw when we're marching so rapidly towards fatigue at this point.
Hey, the Arcane Explosion with the Solarium wasn't half bad actually.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe there was some merit to hold on to that for some different breakpoints further down the line. Ooh.
This is where it takes some discipline. Is
I will crush your delusions of grandeur.
Oh no!
oops.
So I believe from Boar's perspective, that was either pressure play, pack tactics, or snake trap at that point.
The fate of the world hangs in the balance.
Ugh, that was rough. Arcane Intellect not too great, and Cantus Flow not good either. Maybe it is just an ice barrier here for BoarControl. I don't think there's anything specific he wants to draw into right now. I think all the big draws have happened.
Well, he still has his puzzle box and his own single copy of Solarium Prime, which Swidz has now doubled up on. Oh! Get out! Yep,
Swidz
big
just
thumbs
with the
up.
He's like, nice
Big
one,
thumbs
Reno.
up from Swidz.
Now this Malagos explosion, deals with the majority of the threats on board.
So yeah, Boar took a risk there, I guess planning to AoE that turn anyway with the Flame Strike. If it was Snakes, obviously he wants to attack into the minion first to then deal with that secret, but I would argue that the downside of a pack tactics is much, much worse than the upside of dealing with 3 additional Snakes on that turn.
Yeah, I think that might have just been a bit of a mental slip there for BoarControl. It's also one of those frustrating moments of, okay, if you're feeling ahead, which I think BoarControl is fair to do, his hand is bigger, he's got a lot of threats, Swidz is running out of stuff, what are the cards I could lose to? Solarium Prime is definitely one. Solarium Prime is now definitely 2. And that is down to, the only fact that BoarControl went for that trade and not the other way around, or avoided it completely.
What would make us rich?
Is he at the point where he just boxes because it's 0 mana? And it's not the worst box moment?
Don't think so. It seems too dangerous. With the puzzle box draws you cards so often that with the hand size the way it is,
What would make us
sure, I'm not necessarily too scared about outright fatiguing at this point. But his hand could quite easily fill up and then draw cards, and he just burns his Solarium Prime that's in his deck, which just seems like immediately game losing at this point.
I'm just worried that for BoarControl, if he doesn't play it now, he probably just won't play it. And I think he does need something bigger to happen this turn, and he's already drawn a lot of his best cards outside of what exactly Prime.
What a day! I mean, this looks pretty big.
I want bigger. Crazier.
Discover
Mystic
2
knowledge.
Warlock cards. You've got a Nether Breath and a Dark Portal. Okay. So he currently has 7 cards in hand, which means, yeah, it's not going to work. But it does just say draw a minion on it, which is a pretty big deal when he's got 2 Solarium Primes
That is
remaining in his
true.
deck.
Just cast
That is
Whether it
very
costs
true.
less or not.
Ready for a show?
Swidz is just a gamer. He just believes. I'm telling you. Nice.
Oh, it always gets there. There's a prime.
Thought I had more time.
That was
I
a
don't
weird
know why
one.
he believes so hard when his boxes are this bad, though.
You lose faith, they get worse after all.
Okay.
Oh, Swidz. Head crack, which means he wins again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now responding kind BoarControl bots again. Oh, why is this a matchup? It's just 2 quests. Just equipped.
Yep. Boar
Say-
rules out, Vaporize, Ice Barrier, Flame Ward with his attack. So now he's suddenly scared of like Counterspell and all that kind of business as well. Mirror Entity. Wait, what on earth? Did the Blizzard go? My deck tracker reports that he still has a Blizzard in his deck.
Deck tracker seems to be ill-informed.
My deck tracker does appear to be drunk, yeah. Hang on. See if I can sober it up.
Or a coffee or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Look at the quest! He procs the quest!
Okay, that's pretty good.
Colin
pretty
Garrett
funny.
Brown, top 5 plays of the of the week here. Reno should be in there.
Okay, I've solved the dilemma. Boar does not play Blizzard, and for some reason my deck tracker is using
Right.
Yala's Mage for this game, which is my confusion, so I apologize for that. Sorry, that is just funny though, isn't it?
It's very funny, yeah. What's his other quest? Can he proc it?
It's the attack a bunch of times one. Attack twice with your hero, but he only got it when he was down to 1 charge on the heavy axe.
You never know, he might equip another weapon.
That's fair. Telling you, dude, head crack all the way.
Frostover does lock out these minions. Which we can see is not bad because there's double Solarian in hand.
Yep.
But again, it's tough, and I think BoarControl's struggling with this now, but the longer he waits for this puzzle box, the more unplayable it is, because he'll just die from fatigue a lot of the time.
Just cast that.
Right.
I think he might just have to jam it. Because although Frostnova locks out the turn, so what? I think is the the comeback there, because great, he gets to attack base with a 3/6 and play a taunt. I guess he could play the Doomsayer.
Yeah, he does have Soul of the Murloc active now, so at least he gets some board presence after a Doomsayer goes off.
Thought I had more
The
time.
Kartuk Defender development is not nothing. You know, if he pushes 3 here...
I bring life.
Wow, okay, he's just going to disrespect it entirely and just hide behind his Flame Ward here instead and just say to Swidz he has to trade regardless. Alright, I'm on board. Swidz obliges with the trades.
One shot, one.
Oh,
Curious now exactly how many minions Swidz has even left in his deck to be able to draw with this Dark Portal, but I think he's just going to hold off completely. Having drawn both of the Solarians at this point, just drawing cards does not seem that exciting.
Yep. Lethal, maybe? Solarian number 1.
Uh-huh.
Oh my. Look at, was Swidz testing if that was lethal with the Frostbolt he has in hand?
I think so, yeah. I think he just pointed at face to see if he got the skull or not.
Right. Well, pick your poison, BoarControl. He's gonna hold off again. What's he waiting for? Try and get this
Oh, he just has
to go off. Okay.
Yeah, he just has Frost Nova Doomsayer here, which, you know, kind of solves the problem pretty reliably. Okay, I mean, board cleared, but the big downside of that is that he doesn't get the free turn of development. If I look at that, like, well, Boar was clearly upset with that, but why was he upset with that? He played the Doomsayer to clear the board, and the board got cleared, so he should be happy. Well, no, he played the Doomsayer to get a free turn to play on the board the turn after, which he's now not going to get because his Doomsayer only has 2 health.
Yeah, there's even Frostbolt into Solarian if he really wants it. Just to guarantee all other spells go face, but I guess just Solarian first probably makes it more likely he gets there. I'm not sure, actually.
I think if you're just straight up trying to get lethal, then Frostbolting the Doomsayer first would be more likely. But I think it's pretty unlikely either way. There's so many mage spells that just get cast that don't have any impact on face damage, right? Like, even if face was the only target, it's still pretty unlikely that you get lethal from
Waiting for this to be lethal now, even though it's definitely not. Oh.
Thought I had more time. My spell looks running light.
Okay, is that drawing or not? That's actually pretty important. It did draw. Okay, fatigue is now in for Swidz. Counterspell! Oh my goodness, no! The counterspell is brutal.
Even Crows
He's the
breath.
board.
Oh, attacking missile! Oh my.
Wait,
Why did he
wait,
swing?
what? Why did he attack?
Wait,
Swidz!
he had
What are
Frostbolt.
you
He had
doing?
Frostbolt. You would have just won.
He just had Frostbolt. He just had Frostbolt.
What?
Mass res?
What?
Own Wraith?
Card names? Oh. I'm getting sliding slowly out of my chair. This game's stressing me out so much. He's drawing
No!
no fatigue.
The fatigue! Okay. He's at 7. His next draw fatigues for 2.
Frostbolt head
He's-
crack.
Frostbolt head crack, yeah. He's dead. What? Oh, what even is Hearthstone, Raven?
A game we all play is my answer. Game we all play.
Swidz, you've won. I'm not sure he even quite realizes.
Wait,
I
but
guess that's not necessarily the case.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, he should still play for the board there because the Reno spell goes first, so the
Yep.
Reno spell could like healing touch himself at that point, and then the fatigue doesn't end up killing him. Ah. What you got, Raven? What
Nothing
you got?
left.
It's your job, mate.
It
You've
is
got
my
a lead.
job, unfortunately, at this moment in time. An emotional roller coaster for both players, I think. Swidz, although did, arguably, he just did miss lethal there. He could have just frostbolted in the earlier turn for the game and not swung the weapon. Regardless, he did end up taking the win with this mage. And I do think TJ is watching that one. So again, he'll be happy with the outcome, no doubt. But we do see that is just game number 1. BoarControl is going to have his warrior up, which is a point of contention as to maybe we edge slowly back to real Hearthstone and not sort of crazy fairyland Hearthstone that we were in just then for the past, I don't know, eternity, it felt like to a certain extent. But he does have the Mage, Demon Hunter, and Warrior left. And Swidz has his Demon Hunter and that Zoo list as well. So pretty crazy game 1, but hopefully it's only going to get smoother from here, Sottle.
You would hope so, yeah. BoarControl does still have his Mage left up, but it's just Demon Hunter and Zoo on the other side of the proceedings from Swidz. So pretty straightforward stuff in terms of just, developing board states versus a deck that's trying to shut them down from BoarControl's side, and be that with Rogue or with Mage. So yeah, Swidz has put a ton of stock into this Zoo up until this point, and his stocks have been very much trending upwards based on last year compared to this. He's been the most successful player throughout the Swiss portions, the only player to win 2 different weeks of the Swiss proceedings. He's now off to a solid start in the round robin stage as well, and a lot of that has just come off the back of this Zoo deck.
It really has, and it's been, by the looks of things at least, largely unplayed. Unchanged, apologies, because he's still running the Flame Imps, he's running the Eggs, there's still the Zephyrus in there. So this almost looks like the first list we saw from Swidz back a few weeks ago, even after there's been some iteration. But now we see BoarControl, sick of it, sick of Mage, doesn't want to see it ever again. He's going to go to a real deck. That's called Warrior right now. He's going to be locking that one in, and looking like it fairly standard. There's the one Tolver in there, but outside of that, looks pretty good to me. The Grommash and the Deathwing, which I'm a big fan of as well in the list. Solid list. I think we're going to see some solid play, and the onus is going to be on Swidz to make something happen here, because I do believe that Warrior, although can lose this matchup, of course, does have all the tools to deal with this and put pressure on the ball.
Yeah, for sure. And, the onus is on Swidz as well, because we've not really been seeing this leave Warrior up strategy work. Again, some people have won the series while leaving Warrior up, but it's still just after Warrior has been able to get a win straight away immediately at the first port of call. So if that happens again here for BoarControl, we're going to have to continue to ask questions about that dynamic.
Yeah, let's get into game number 2. Don't worry, everyone. You can relax a little bit. Maybe just lower that heart rate after that previous game. This is going to be a little bit more by the books, although Warlock does have the option for scrapping to change things around. And it is amusing to me that with Warrior's current power level and strength of this deck and the things it can achieve, it is talked about as a more secure, steady deck in the meta right now versus some of the other stuff that's available, i.e. Mage and Warlock.
Yeah. It does, share some similarities with Patron Warrior, but that was one of my favorite things about Patron Warrior, was as explosive and ridiculous as the things it could do were. There were 0 random effects in the entire deck. It did everything that it did consistently and at the behest of the player. The only random factor is card draw. And this is a bit different because there's the bombs that can create some chaos in the mid game. But again, it's very much just a consistent deck. Not in the least because it draws a lot of cards. That generally reduces variance as well. And top players tend to like that. When they're playing a deck that draws a lot of cards, they feel like that gives them more of a skill edge in positions because the draw variance is reduced in certain matchups.
Yeah, and look at some of the best performances with some of the best players in the world. A lot of them would always lean on Rogue, on Warlock, on obviously Patron Warrior as well. These decks that do consistently draw most of the deck in any reasonably length game. But so far, right. Swidz is just playing old school style Zoo at the moment. Doesn't have access to a Scrap Imp, which means he has just got to make it work with whatever minions he has. And that is a good sign for BoarControl because these minions die to risky skipper turns, whereas Scrap Imp minions often do not.
So many possibilities.
Yeah, Serpent Egg is about the next best thing, though. Giving yourself a little bit of protection. But since the fast start didn't really come out for Swidz, this could now just be bread and butter for Boar. Especially since he has Risky Skipper and Blood Boil Brute in combination in the coming turns. The lackeys aren't the most ideal candidate to be proccing his Risky Skipper turn, but as long as he doesn't get Evolve Lackey, which he didn't, he should still be fine to clear a lot of this board state up whenever he chooses to.
Yeah, and this is one of the interesting things also about Warrior is it's hitting every target when it is the most powerful deck in the game right now. It's also very enjoyable by many pros, and it's also just a good bring in terms of the meta because it's the most powerful. So you've got tons of reps with it. So even, you know, you just mentioned, oh, probably just bread and butter here for BoarControl so far. Well, yeah, and that is some very consistent play. I imagine BoarControl's played a ton of Warrior, as most pros have. So there won't be anything that really catches you out as often when you know what tools you've got to deal with and how to deal with these kind of low health, aggressive pushes that Zoo and to a certain extent Demon Hunter make consistent. So
Infinite value, Raven.
yeah.
Infinite value. Literally infinite. Swidz cannot lose.
At the moment, BoarControl doesn't actually have like the good cards to combo with Risky Skipper. And no Bomb Wrangler, no Armor Smith, no Sky Raider as well, just for the cheap procs. A little bit of a weird hand there, but still manageable. And he's not exactly under tons of threat right now.
Yep, and this now means with the Rush Lackey that there are going to be 4 injured minions on board. So if Boar wanted to go for the coin into the Blood Boil Brute, that is available for him.
Rush into the egg now with the Risky Skipper, trading the Serpent with the Brute. Oh wait, sorry, did he already attack?
Did he? Hang on. Mine's
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I thought he was going to attack into the egg there. Maybe he just doesn't want to prot the egg.
Why wouldn't he?
Yeah, he couldn't have attacked, right? Because Risky Skipper's on 1, and he played 2 minions, so he didn't attack.
Exactly.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wanted to leave the egg up.
Eager to share.
That's an upgrade.
Or he just forgot his skipper had Rush. It's also a possibility.
Or does he just really want this Blood Boil to live so he can double Rampage? Now he can Rampage +1. But see him instantly hover the Rampage at the start of that turn? If he traded into the Serpent, he would have put the Blood Blow down to 4 health, which is soul fireable.
Sure. I don't know. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying that is the outcome that happened and one that at least makes a level of sense. The only weird thing is Swidz does have... I'll triple check, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Swidz plays Evil Genius, right? So that would have been a bit rough if he just got Evil Genius off the top.
I wonder.
How does he not just Rampage and copy here? I would have done this about 10 minutes ago. And send that one to the face.
Your flaws are your strength.
This is why Warrior is fun. How do you fancy moving on to a game number 3, Sol?
It's looking like we're getting there.
I wonder.
What is Swidz even considering here? Unlike Hunter Ace, he isn't running the Shadow Weavers, so he can't freeze any of these out. He doesn't have access to 18 damage even with the best life tap in the world, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Also, on paper, he could kill 1 and then have to kill the 3/3 and technically be 5. Just working out the best way to do that. I'll say best way, maybe he's trying to work out the only way that happens.
Yeah, I mean, he has outs where he can, like, technically be weirdly alive on board if he taps into a taunt or another Soulfire or whatever to be able to remove some more pressure, but the likelihood of that actually being a play that wins the game is super slim, but Swidz was just going through the motions, making sure he found any outs that he could, but nothing doing. It was just a super easy game for BoarControl, as every game Warrior gets to play on stream seems to be up until this point.
It really is crazy, because when you look at that, yes, you know, if we just look at this one game, but I am applying it across the weekend, would that really have been any harder if he was against Hunter? in that matchup. I know there are some different decks, of course, like Swidz has his mage and so on, but I just feel like you're just going to take a loss versus Warrior 100% of the time if you're leaving it up. So it still continues to baffle me as Warrior continues to take wins every single time it's left up. But now the series is even 1-1. We had a nice palette cleanser after the sheer anarchy, which was that first game. So now Warrior taking a win. Everything's right with the world again. It is 1-1. And now BoarControl still has his mage and Demon Hunter versus the Zoolock Demon Hunter from Swidz.
Indeed. Boar's Demon Hunter is looking to be fairly standard with what most of the top players in EU are running. He is playing the Beaming Psychic list, no Priestess of Fury. One copy of Spectral Sight and 2 Chaos Strikes is looking pretty normal across the board. And the mage we've already seen is the Imprisoned Observer build, which should have been somewhat of a clue to me to ignore my deck tracker that the Blizzard wasn't in there. But he's playing an Overconfident Orc. That's the card that's a little bit different going in there and perhaps taking the place of that Blizzard.
Yeah, well, let's get into it. It's going to be the mage versus Zoo. And we did touch on this a little bit earlier, but once again, the lack of charge minions against mage does make it a little bit weaker, a little bit more controllable for the mage player to handle this Zoo. But pretty solid opening from Swidz if it's not going to be one of the explosive openings you get with Scrap Imp or even the Expired Merchant Hand of Gul'dan. I think having an Evil Genius might be the next best thing on that list.
Sure. It's just my deck tracker's just instantly drunk again. It just thinks he has Blizzard in his deck. He just doesn't. Okay, there we go. I've solved it.
Okay, well there's Hand of Gul'dan for Swidz. Please get in there. There's one piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
The end is coming!
BoarControl though does have Doomsayer into Ice Barrier into Mana Saber into Reno. This is just like the hand to at least stabilize the early and mid game.
It is, yeah. This is always something that you kind of have to learn on a matchup by matchup basis, though, is just how greedy you can kind of get with Doomsayer. Because Ice Barrier on 3 after this Doomsayer going off isn't really a payoff, right? Like, you would love to have the greedy turn where you play Doomsayer on 3 and use that to just drop Mana Saber on an empty board.
Right.
But because the way that, Zoo could just develop a ton of power this turn with a couple of 1-drops, and the fact that Swidz, I believe, is playing Flame Imps as well, right?
Yes,
yeah, makes it easier for him to do that. And then there's also the fact that, because as you said, the Mana Saber curves into the Reno, you're not particularly worried about the 2 turns of development that Swidz gets between now and you playing your Reno, because that's what your Reno's for.
Exactly, and even though the Ice Barrier isn't really, as you mentioned, the biggest payoff in the world, he gets to just use 3 mana in an efficient way and get this Ice Barrier cast, so it's definitely something.
Yeah.
Swidz, in the meantime, let's have some lackeys to play with, but really just missing some of those key cards. No Carpet, although not quite as good versus Mage, of course. Carpet's normally good versus Mage due to its high health. But also just no Scrap Imp, and without that, he's playing a bit of a more pitiful version of his own deck here.
I wonder.
Useful things, eager to share.
The light protects me.
Titanic Lackey is going to help a little bit with some of those health breakpoints, but it's not looking like it's going to be enough once you deduct the 3 from the Mana Saber attack as well. Honestly, Swidz will just be hoping to see anything but Mana Saber come down this turn.
Yep.
Told you. Told you. This is just the hand. We've talked a lot about just the hand for Zoo, but the Doomsayer into Mana Saber into Reno, this is just the nuts against Zoo.
Yeah, and honestly, for me, it really is. I think I've said this before a few times, but Mana Saber just, I feel like, is the card that makes Reno Mage a playable deck. That sounds really weird because Reno's a pretty good card. The other Reno's a pretty good card. And then obviously Zephrys Alexstrasza, but Mana Saber just feels like it consistently ties the deck together.
No, you're wrong. It's Puzzle Box.
If anyone else had said that to me, Sol, I might consider that a semi-serious discussion, but because I know you fairly well. I'm not even going to
So
consider that
many
response.
You were just a
possibilities.
burden.
Right, Shade Matron is going to be able to
Almost out of time.
hand of Gul'dan, and he does get a scrap him.
He
Is
does.
it too little, too late?
Probably yes. He is going to be falling very rapidly behind on board. Good news for Boar? Oh, sorry, good news for Swidz is that there's functionally 11 health on the board right now, so Boar will have to take a chunk out of this Mana Saber to get the full clear here with Reno. Guess it wouldn't matter anyway, because it's not like it could attack face to get the ramp with the taunt in the way.
Yeah.
But Boar might now
What to do?
just consider
What to do?
what holding on to Reno looks like. Not a fan of it myself. He might just
So-
see all these resources that have built up in his opponent's hand and just think he needs to beat the second wave more than he needs to beat this first one.
Yeah, and I wonder where we would go here. He could Astromancer, Ray of
What
Frost,
to
a
do?
5/5,
What
and
to
ping, say,
do?
the shield. Or he could even Astromancer, Ray of Frost, attack, and then get a Flame Ward down. There's a few options. My worry is none of them look
Time
that
runs out
great,
on me.
and you don't have a 4/6 on the board, which I think is a nice addition to obviously the powerful battle cry of Reno.
Mm-hmm. I think the concern with just the Reno turn here is a potential magic carpet coming back the other way.
We're gonna have some fun.
That can clean up your board state pretty effectively with the hand size that Swidz has.
Right.
But even then, you're unlikely to be massively behind after that turn. It'll probably just be a carpet staring you down that we'll need dealing with.
And this is the thing as well. It would have to be carpet plus a couple of minions going into Reno. Because like I said, the 4/6 was almost a big selling point to me for this
Yep.
turn. Because this is a hard board to deal with for Swidz and only on 5 mana, 6 with the coin.
Yep, agreed. I think Boar will be pretty delighted to see 1-drops already being played without Magic Carpet coming down. That Rush Lackey might be huge though, just to prevent the additional ramp now.
Wait, Swidz not playing Scrapping. Okay, yes. For a second, I was worried, and now I wonder, is that Faceless really better than killing a Mana Saber here?
Not now, it isn't.
Well, the Mana Saber
Not with a
gets,
Seamat
the
draw.
Mana Saber gets to value trade as well.
Yeah.
It's not like he put a 3-attack taunt in the way where he either takes a chunk out of Reno or it kills
Yeah.
the Mana Saber. I feel that very strange. I thought after that Rush like it was created, it was almost a given.
Yeah, I do kind of agree. I see the merit in, his hand's about to get huge. So Rush Lackey is one of those things that, gets better as his hand gets bigger. If he can rush a 1-mana 4/4,
Right,
then that's better than rushing a 1-mana 2/2, It's kind of a bootleg Magic Carpet in that regard,
to
but
do?
the Mana Saber
What
is
to
just a
do?
problem that needs solving right now.
It's a potential punish as well because what do you think BoarControl would want from this Seamat? Would he ever
Time runs out on me.
consider the Rush Wind Fury to clear off the board? Because I think if he goes Divine Shield Wind Fury with him, is he worried? I guess maybe he's not worried about Carpet, right? Because he would have seen it last turn, actually. I think this is actually better. I've just had this whole conversation with myself, so I'm sorry, Sal. But I think I do agree with this. I went through all the levels, but after BoarControl not seeing Carpet the previous turn, it's very likely there's not a Carpet this turn.
Yeah. So the two I considered were Divine Shield Taunt and Divine Shield Wind Fury. Divine Shield Taunt to try and protect the Mana Saber for yet another turn to try and get some payoff from, and then Divine Shield Wind Fury obviously because it's just the nuts as an aggressive push instead. And Boar went with the latter. Seems fine.
Now Swidz has that weird cover turn of the second proc of the second turn of the proc of the scrapping, where he can't just tap pass because of the Seamat. but also the more resources he uses on the Tiamat, the less resources get buffed in his hand, and he is going to end up using the Goblin Lackey.
Right.
Ugh. This Scrap Imp is significantly worse. Oh, and the Fiendish. Oh, it is. That might have just been enough to seal the deal.
Dragon Activator as well off the top for Boar. I think Boar's trades last turn actually were keeping Soulfire in mind as well, because he killed a 1-1 with his Reno as opposed to killing a 2-2, which would have left it at 4 health. It just so happened that with combination with the Rush Lackey, the Soulfire was able to clear up the Tiamat instead of the Reno. But I think BoarControl definitely had Soulfire in mind while he was playing that turn out as well.
And now, for me, depends how aggressive and spicy BoarControl's feeling, but the Nova is just consistently fantastic versus Warlock, especially when you know it's just, not only is the hand small, but there's no carpet in sight really for Swidz. For Swidz to get carpet, you'd literally have to draw it off. I think the Nova's nice. It's just the likely outcome is that Swidz just drops some dudes on the board this turn at a high health, high attack. Nova, of course, it is the carpet, which is typical.
Okay, well that is just the best draw in his deck. Fine, sure. Or could have played a 3-2 instead of pinging a 1-1 last turn, which obviously has the effect of potentially getting his Solarian Prime shuffled into his deck a little bit quicker if he ever needs a panic button at some point in the game.
I think I like to
Instead of push face with the Reno.
So
he has the Ray of Frost he can
possibility.
hit the spell damage for as well with the Solarium.
That's true.
As an emergency, it does start to, it adds up a little bit. Here we go, best for Swidz. You see Boar's response, just displays that was the unlikely outcome to happen, and he's going to get punished a little bit, but I still think it was the completely right play for him.
Why do you
Of course.
What if, because BoarControl's health is so high, he just flame wards this turn?
It's my instinct.
Just let him have the 6, and then the whole board's dead. And also, Swidz, outside of lackeys, I think, cannot buff the health on his minions, right?
He has one.
He's got one side.
He has one more Beaming Psychic left, doesn't he? Or does he only play one?
Oh, he plays two. He plays two.
Okay, so yeah, he has second Beaming Psychic and then, ways to generate lackeys, which even then you'd be like evil geniusing your own board to get some like, that doesn't sound good.
Could even just use a Ray of Frost and the Flame Imp to greatly reduce the, like give him a slightly lower value first hit as well. With double Frost Nova. Or just as the other way around, he could Frost Nova Ray to kill 2 minions or kill the carpet. And have a second Frost Nova backup. I like all these options, honestly, and it's weird because the hand at surface level does not look that great for BoarControl, does it? I wonder what he's saving this Solarium for.
Oh, the Beaming Psychic was actually drawn as well.
Wow.
It's a potentially huge punish. But yeah, I can get behind this because he's softening up the board to the point where Flame Ward is just a complete blowout. Essentially, the goal is just to help. Like you need Flame Ward to buy one more turn because right now, if Boar had Reno or something in his hand, then yeah, he could just potentially Flame Ward that turn, then have 2 turns of Frost Nova, and then he plays his Reno and he's chilling. But right now, he needs to stretch for extra turns because he's looking for turns to draw that big payoff for getting all the way to the end of his deck.
Well,
Yeah, that'll do.
good.
Yep. Now, Swidz Swidz has board locked himself, so it's perfect time for the Flame Ward because any effects that will buff health just can't get into play. Plus, you see both Beaming Sidekicks just chilling on the board. Evil Genius can't be played to generate a Titanic Lackey. So all this stuff is just dead.
Yep, the frustration as well is it's not as if Swidz can go for the maybe crazier plan of just getting Zephyrus active to try and impact this board to get, say, Soul of the Forest. Because guess what? He can't play Zephyrus. He's board locked. And if he tries to open up a space, they all die. It's very, very awkward.
So here's the line, right? You tap until your Zephyrus is active. In the meantime, you find your second Soulfire, and then you Soulfire one of your own minions without discarding the Zephyrus, and then play the Zephyrus, Soul of the Forest.
You found the line, Sol. Good job.
Yeah. Alternatively, you just do this and you play your stuff again, which is probably the same version.
Your wish is my suggestion. The fate of the world hangs in the
Oh, yeah?
Box! Oh, imagine.
Imagine we'll be seeing a blizzard here.
Wants to box. Look at him! He wants to! He wants to!
Boar, don't do it.
Do
I know
it!
you're a streamer now, but remember, you're also a competitive Hearthstone player.
I wonder.
Where would you be without your fans? This is what the fans want.
Sorry, are we just perched on Boar's shoulders right now? Just one on each shoulder?
Yep. Yep. Funnily enough, I feel like I'm the bad influence here. I didn't see it coming.
So I guess Boar is holding on to the Blizzard here because it actually kills a bunch of minions that Swidz can draw and play from this point. And essentially he's just expecting them both to cost 0 for the rest of the game regardless because he just has a 4/12. So I guess that makes sense.
Guys, I can't move.
Merchant's a heck of a card, but I don't even think two of them are going to help out too much in this game.
Another soul to consume.
I will crush your delusions of grandeur.
Your wish is my suggestion.
Nice.
Nicely
done.
The Pyroblast finish there for BoarControl is going to take him into the lead here against Swidz 2-1. I wish he just played the box on that turn just to see what happened. But most importantly, he cashed in that win there, and he does only have the Demon Hunter left to take a win, and he has got that Zoo or the Demon Hunter to against. So still very, very doable for Swidz, but I feel like the Demon Hunter does perform well versus the Zoo in a lot of situations that don't involve a scrapping.
Yeah, I do actually want to cover the mechanics of that last turn as well, because it was actually pretty smart from Boar, where you saw him just throw out a bunch of cards. He's basically just spending as much mana as possible to convince Zephyrus to give him a play for next turn, as convincingly as possible. Zephyrus doesn't know that that Pyroblast costs 0 when it gives it to you. So he put him to 10 with the attack, and then just spent all of his mana to say to Zephyrus, okay, forget about all the options you think are good next turn. Look, I'm spending all my mana. Give me a Pyroblast for next turn. That's what I want. And then by manipulating Zephyrus in that way, of course, he knows that it's then immediately lethal with the discount. So it's actually a really cute ending to that game.
Yep, and you can tell just by the fact that how quickly BoarControl did it is he's done it before, he knows how it works, there was no, deep thinking involved, it was just okay to play for 10 kill him. So cool little end of the game there, but we are going to move swiftly on to game number 4. BoarControl on his Demon Hunter again. Swidz also on his Demon Hunter as well. So any great differences in the lists? Let's take a look. Swidz is on the lower curve. Does have one I-beam in there. He's also running the 2 Sightless Watchers as, I guess, the flex cards. BoarControl.
So Boar is playing 2 I-Beams, he's playing 0 Sightless Watchers, but he's playing 2 Chaos Strikes and 1 Spectral Sight in those spots.
Yep, so a couple of differences. I guess the I-Beams might be the big one in terms of just if the players need heal or spot removal. But overall, very similar list, so it is just going to be a true battle for the board.
Ooh, Boar locked out by Metamorphosis on the left-hand side is far from ideal, but he does have Umberwing in the opener, which is not too bad, and a nice Battle Mage off the top there, actually.
Fires of vengeance burn bright.
Preventing him from an otherwise pretty ugly-looking curve.
Umberwing into Satyr, though, is looking mighty fine here for Swidz, and then has the Shadow Weaver follow-up, which, although would be off-curve, is actually better to play into a slightly later game plan for the Demon Hunter.
Yeah. Boar's clearly very amused about something, but okay.
Considering the coin Shadow Weaver.
Yeah, I mean, it's a play.
He's just loving it, isn't he?
He's just enjoying the fine game of Hearthstone.
Time grows short. Demons. Demons.
Yep, okay, go for it. Does dominate the board, it prevents Satyr Overseer, as we were talking about, means that Twin Slices can't be used for tempo, Hero Power can't be used for tempo here. Pretty solid.
It does just lock out the options.
I think it's scary to use coin here for Boar though, because he's left-hand locked by that Metamorphosis right now, and that just kind of slows down any usage he can get out of that card, meaning he will remain outcast locked on the left side for quite some time. So I can understand the debate. Not quite sure why Boar found it so amusing, but I can understand the debate.
The fires of vengeance burn bright.
Now Boar can curve into Umberwing Hero Power or potentially get this I-Beam active if his draw is cheap, and it is in fact the cheapest.
That looks pretty cheap to me. But again, that's a lot of stuff to play.
It
just
is.
to get the I-Beam active.
It is. And there's no premium targets, no
grow
must-kill
impatient.
minions on the board right now.
I think he might just have to take it a little bit slower, maybe just go for the Umberwing Hero Power into the 3-2. And either kill off the Battle Master
grow
or just go face if he wants to
impatient.
push some damage. I think face damage is not to be underestimated in this matchup. Even though the board is greatly the focus, we see the level of burst damage that's capable to come from Demon Hunter.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when your opponent is cutting down on I-Beams. Again, Swidz does have it, but it is just one in his version of the deck. And Boar is just going to push.
Yep, and again, nice order in there. Just a small thing and a pretty obvious thing, but just equipping the Umberwing fast means that he saves the durability on the weapon.
Yeah. It's a fairly unique weapon in that regards that, you know, you actually feel happy in a lot of places equipping it even though you're not getting any usage out of the actual weapon because you get that board presence at the same time.
Right.
So, you know, you're paying 2 for the 2/1/1s and the future investment into the weapon.
And the nature of Demon Hunter just having access to that hero power right just makes it happen so much more often.
So Boar now likely hoping that he's able to play that Sigil Runner outcasted from the right-hand side of his hand now next turn, based on what he draws. I think that's a big part of him opening up his hand and pushing so aggressively there is to try and expose that Sigil Runner to the right-hand side of his hand next turn instead.
Right.
A lot of draws that can get him there. The other Twin Slice. Both Battle Fiends, both Sidekicks, another Battle Mage.
It does mean that Swidz is using once again his face to tank some damage here. And although for Swidz winning on board, he is a 8 health so far. Just a little bit spicy.
That's huge. Yep, that's huge. You can see Boar reacting to it as well. He says, okay, we will take that. He got himself a card draw off that Crimson Sigil runner. Level on board, Metamorphosis is in business. Swidz will almost certainly drop the Frozen Shadow Weaver here in fear of the Gladebound Adept coming down. But Boar does not have Gladebound Adept. He just wants to spend this turn on Metamorphosis based on his current hand anyway. So he is fine with this scenario.
Yeah, and that's it, right? Funnily enough, don't get me wrong, Swidz having stuff to do that slows BoarControl down is not good for BoarControl. But the fact that wasn't the 5-drop he had meant that he kind of just, now the Shadow Weaver's gone, if he does draw Gladebound Adept, it's much more flexible to be actually used. And as I said, he is 6 health above Swidz right now, which, although facing down a bit of a scary board, he can actually just use the Shadow Weaver this turn. Or do you think he has to use 5 mana because the rest of the turn would look so bad otherwise?
Yeah, that's the question, right? Because if he just plays the Metamorphosis here, he just takes it from the board state. He does at least open himself up additional mana on the next turn to play something else that he draws alongside Frozen Shadow Weaver and Hero Power. But that is the nuts from Swidz that turn.
All playable as well.
Yeah, Chaos Strike will likely just reblock the Sigil Runner from the right-hand side, though. Is a slight problem.
He could have actually played the Sightless Watcher first, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well. I would say, though, I think Swidz... Should Swidz ever just take advantage of the massive ball position he's got and just drop the Sigil Runner anyway?
I think that's very possible, yeah.
The only thing he's worried about is an Altreus, but... Maybe that's just a risk you take.
It's a 2-card hand as well. Like, you have
That's
3 health. You have 3 health minions in play. Like, a 2-card hand is not going to deal with it. Four, 7, 9, 10 in play. Sigil Runner makes it 12. You have Humblewing, Hero Power in hand.
You have Kane.
14. You have Kane.
They will never catch me.
Yeah, you play
Yeah,
it,
I like
right?
this.
Yep. There's the I-beam.
Help.
That's a clock, yep.
No, it's an I-beam. It's a weird-looking clock.
Even a broken I-beam's worth right twice a day.
I think you can see the visual decision-making here from BoarControl. Are we just considering whether he needs the Hero Power minion or not?
So if he just I-beams the 4-3, he's up to 18, and he's staring down 8.
You can freeze the 3-2 and
10.
kill the 2-1 with the dagger. Oh, with the weapon. If he wants to go full board focus clear.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to double confirm, he has 2 Metamorphosis attacks. So this Hero Power does 10 over 2 turns, right?
Correct, yep.
Just because there's not actually a marker, is there? That there's 2.
There is if you can mouse over it.
Oh, right, sure.
Is it cold in the shadows?
Even freezing face. Locking out Gladebound Adept, locking out Warglaive of Azinoth.
Oh! That one I-beam, though, off the top. I think Boar's outs were slim from this point anyway. But the I-beam is the nail of the coffin. Yes,
like,
Boar,
only
we
one.
know. We've covered it. It's okay. We are doing our jobs, all right? Don't worry about it.
Just informing everyone, just in case you mute us, there is only one I-beam in the deck.
Yeah.
And is there even an out at this point? Skull of Gul'dan into Nothing.
Skull of Gul'dan into Altruist, playable thing and playable thing.
Altruist isn't playable, right? Oh, I guess so. Yeah, he'll have one.
Cost one.
So it'd have to be literally that into, say, Twin Strike.
Yeah. Well, this is his
Slicer.
last Twin Slicer in hand.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be just Skull of Gul'dan into other things that cost less than 3,
Oh.
and then the Twin Slice would still have to go into the Cane to clear board.
Well, to be fair, just the Altruist would have done it, right?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
just the Altruist with Twin Slice hero power would have technically kept him up and cleared the board.
Yeah.
Whether it would have won the game, we don't know, but the game would have carried on a little bit longer.
Yep.
I yield.
That's going to be it. BoarControl tried to set up some kind of way to push that final bit of damage, but as we were reminded of the one of I-Beam coming into play there from Swidz, but already you see the difference. We spoke about there just being one of them, and yes, Swidz got it as and when and needed, but players run 0 in some of the lists. And look at the difference, right? Like, look how annoyed BoarControl was. That's the difference between running I-Beam and not. And the difference I think we've seen fairly consistently is maybe outside of the Sidekick and Fury builds, but as a more of a tech card, probably the biggest difference maker we've seen that's been included or not included across Demon Hunter builds.
Yeah, it does seem that way. I don't know whether it's just that the difference is just so overt when, you know, a player heals for 3 or doesn't in these racy matchups, but it doesn't seem like the decision of like Sightless Watcher or Chaos Strike or, you know, whatever else is the dynamic in that position. Yeah, Mana Burn, exactly. It doesn't seem like those choices are having just as straight up as identifiable an impact as whether or not you have I-Beams in your deck.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to just this final game. Both players taking it to game number 5. It's going to be Demon Hunter versus Zoo Warlock. And again, this matchup feels just on a razor's edge, like it's tense. I feel like the Scrap Imp makes such an impact specifically in this matchup as well. So I think without a Scrap Imp, Demon Hunter does what Zoo does, but better. But with a Scrap Imp, well, Zoo's got a Scrap Imp, they're going to win. Or at least they're much more powerful. So it sounds really stupid description, but that's honestly how I feel about this matchup.
It's about, it's about accurate. It's probably the best way to describe the Scrap Imp dynamic. Is well, if you draw Scrap Imp, well, then you've got a Scrap Imp. So, like,
that's just
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
in all
sign
honesty,
me
it's
up.
just the Demon Hunter is very close to Zoo in terms of playstyle when Zoo doesn't have the Scrap Imp, and maybe even just better than Zoo, honestly, especially with the removal and the weapons Demon Hunter has access to. Oh.
Yeah, I mean their cards are just better. Like
Yes.
that's the story here. Is Zoo plays incredibly low quality cards in a lot of the slots in their deck. You're not looking at too many of them right now. You know, Flame Imp, Beaming Sidekick, pretty solid. But then you start getting into Argent Squire, and you're like, okay, really? That's a card in your deck? So in their unbuffed version, they're extremely mediocre. They need to be landing those buffs to really compete with the card quality that Demon Hunter has.
The fires of vengeance burn bright.
Good start for BoarControl as well, just getting that strong 2-2 on the board in the form of this Battle Master.
Hey, I got you.
This is a really nice play as well for BoarControl because he knows Swidz plays the Flame Imps. So putting out the Battle Fiend might not have looked too appetizing if he's expecting to trade into it anyway.
Right.
But he did get the bad news that there's a sidekick, which makes this a little bit more.
Boar just head on desk there. It looked like he's drawn 6/5/5 since his opener. Can at least take solace in the fact that his opponent did not coin Scrap Imp, which means they do not have Scrap Imp.
The top level read there.
Mm-hmm.
What do you expect from these pro players?
So the debate here, I guess, is Battle Mage is value trading, and then you're playing Battle Fiend and you are hero powering, but do you hit the Flame Imp with your hero power?
Oh.
Because I think, based on BoarControl's hand, he should hit the Flame Imp, because there's a good chance he doesn't really spend his mana next turn, so then he hero powers again. In that case, that gets to go into the Flame Imp again, and the Flame Imp's dead.
But now he can give the Flame Imp Divine Shield. He's not going to. He's probably going to use it to just ping off the 2-1, but still. Good up. The second beam in Sidekick, though, would probably, if I was in BoarControl's chair, just make me cry.
The second Beaming Psychic is pretty disgusting here. In fact, Swidz has just about every disruption card you could possibly imagine for dealing with this 2-turn setup from Boar. Like you said, the Divine Shield option is still there.
Almost out of time.
I think it's good, but it's there.
Useful things.
Oh yeah? Swidz
gonna
not
go
going to
for the
protect the
side.
Flaming. Okay. Oh.
Welcome
Now he just
to Grandmasters today with Noises with Sottle.
has to sink 3 damage into the Flame Imp, even though he attacked it on the previous turn.
It's like Swidz knew. Oh, the extra health won't matter. He'll attack it anyway.
Out of the crowd. Hey,
And he just makes a new one.
The
Oh,
light protects me.
this is looking pretty miserable. And Swidz here, you can see the benefit of Flame Imps in your Zoo deck. We've seen time after time, game after game, Zoo struggle to win any game of Hearthstone where it's not drawing the Skull of Gul'dan, sorry, the Hand of Gul'dan, or the Scrap Imp in the early game. These Flame Imps, high quality cards since 2014. Or just
It's
having
just-
to play a Satyr Overseer into a Fiendish Servant?
Yeah, he does. Swidz does have to make sure he doesn't lose track of this game, though, or let it slip, right?
Oh.
Because the problem is, with such a horrible opening, Swidz has to expect that BoarControl has the mid-game power cards. The
Yeah.
Warglaive of Azimuth, the Metamorphosis, maybe a Skull of Gul'dan. I don't think it's too much of a stretch for him to expect BoarControl to almost have the hand he does. Almost card for card, right? Because, at least for the first 3, because what else would he have not played? And now he's got to think, if there is a Warglaives, do I lose? Does my board just get farmed? And can I even finish the game? I'm not saying Swidz has too much agency in the outcome of this, because he's got no cards in hand now. But he just has to at least mentally prepare for it and know what their backup plan is.
Yeah, for sure. I think the likelihood of this Divine Shield trade into the 2-2 mattering is pretty low, because even if there is Warglaives, this Divine Shield represents 2 swings with the Warglaives if Boar wants to, quote, punish him for not taking that trade himself.
Right.
So I think Swidz is actually just pretty free to go face there.
Yeah, well, one way to play around Warglaives, repeatedly swing it into your minions, is push as much damage as possible and make it so they can't repeatedly swing into your minions, because they'll die. So, I'm never too upset to see a play like this coming out from Swidz. He might be in a position now to hand BoarControl his first loss of the round robin.
Yeah, and square himself up to an even record in the round robin as well. Which
Yeah,
is much more like what his performance through the Swiss promised. That he was going to continue to do well in this round robin stage. It has not quite been the case so far.
And funnily enough, Half mentioned it before, I mentioned it again. Although, of course, you want to be winning all your matches. If you just go even most of the weeks, then you're probably going to be fairly safe to book it in a playoff spot, especially in that Division A.
Right.
So, going to do what he can here. And also, as well, frustratingly enough, this Flame Imp on 4 health is just an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
I think. I've done. Oh, 1 damage is all Swidz needs. That's not it. You should
The
play the Expired
clapping.
Merchant first, right?
The clapping went into overdrive there, though, for Swidz towards the end of that turn. He is getting super hype about the potential of this win over the group leader, BoarControl.
Hey,
Yeah, he just played the Merchant anyway. It's fine.
I say it looks like we might be seeing Scrap Imp's drawn win rate increase that a little bit more this game.
Yep, very nice. There's the I-Beam, though. So you're saying there's a chance?
And honestly, the double Scrap Imp isn't exactly the quick recovery plan that Swidz would need, is it? It's 4 mana, sit and wait a couple of turns before it has any real impact.
I mean, what is the play? You just I-beam and play some sidekicks? Is that the plan? Like,
Yes! Or is he ever considering I-beam meta?
I grow impatient.
He has targetable removal next turn? But then he doesn't have anything to ping the shield on the Ardent Squire.
Time grows short.
Skull of Gul'dan and
I
get a
grow
0-cost
impatient.
I-beam. That way you've played your Skull of Gul'dan and might be in a winnable position.
Ooh, we're getting spicy, Assault.
Now I am complete.
Option B.
Is that another scrap him? Oh, okay. I thought that was another scrap him. Imagine just 3 dormant scrap hims facing you down.
That's 2 pair.
Excuse me. She just evil genius.
Bold Lackey.
I was wondering how much he wants to keep this divine shield though. Did he ever evil genius the evil genius? Oh. There it is. Never mind. Ignore what I'm saying. Cobalt Lackey is the card. Swidz takes the victory. An extremely close series, a back and forth series, one that started off with a bang with that crazy mage mirror, but that ended in a bit of a slow crawl over the finish line.
Oh jeez, that seems so long
sorry,
ago.
mate.
Yeah,
it does seem long ago. They both players taking it to the end there, but that was a weird game. But I do think you are right in the comments about the Flame Imps and drawing them both specifically meant that he could fight back on board and actually gain the board with the help of not only Flame Imp but Sidekick as well, which if you've tuned in for any Grandmasters, we talk a lot about beaming Sidekick as a card. But also that combined with BoarControl's just slow start meant that Zoo could get there. But just a reminder, most Zoo players are not bringing Flame Imp in their deck. They're bringing much lower statted / value minions for the benefits you get later on down the line. So pretty crazy last game there, honestly, for Zoo.
yeah, it's just another route through the game, right? Like when you mulligan, you can hit your Scrap Imp, and then there's your game plan. You can hit Hand of Gul'dan and a discard effect, and then boom, there's your game plan. You can also just hit Flame Imp Beaming Sidekick, and then boom, there's your game plan. You know, like you're just playing a pretty old school version of Zoo at that point. As long as you get some half decent support cards against that, you're probably going to do okay.
Yep, do okay he did. As Swidz again just did hand BoarControl his first loss of the round robin and even himself up 2-2 on the scoreboard as we discussed. So pretty impressive overall there. But BoarControl still, although maybe a little bit frustrated about that specific series of Hearthstone and how some of the games went, still at 2-1 in Division A. He's still feeling very comfortable going into the next couple of weeks of Grandmasters, of course. But we've got one more match coming up for you guys, but we're going to go to a break while we set that one up. So by all means, go and grab a quick drink, maybe a quick nibble to eat. But we'll be right back with match number 5, the final match here, the European Grandmasters this week. We'll be right back.